What's good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I'm going to break down what's going on with Nvda, Tsla, SPY, the QQQ, and many tickers out there. I'm going to talk about what news is coming out for tomorrow that's going to be very important, and how the charts are looking so far. But before I break anything down with all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. And this offer ends in just about 10 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, guys, things are looking crazy for the market. As we predicted, Nvda absolutely exploded. This thing went to the absolute moon after forming a very bullish-looking structure, and we already met our full measured move. And despite that, it's still looking very strong. It looks like this thing is not done. But remember, we were talking about this thing getting to about 470, if not breaking at least 460 as soon as Wednesday. If anything, it did all of this in just one day, so I don't think Nvda is done. I think it has more room to keep going, and we could be set for $500 right before earnings, but we have to break some resistance levels first. Now, just because it's pumping like this, that's awesome to witness. It's very fun to play, but you have to be warned. Okay, after earnings, you never know what's going to happen. It's going to shake the entire market, and it's going to make a big move in one direction, either one way or the other, and we're going to find out after the market closes for Wednesday. But before I talk about more details about Nvda and all these different stocks, let's just talk about some things about the market real quick. So what I was talking about over the weekend was how the market was getting very close. We actually saw this gauge like right here. It was right between fearful and neutral. It was almost fearful. The market was about to turn fearful. We're about to see some panicking. And if anything, what happened right before that happened? The market got a bounce. That's something I was talking about. I was talking about some bullish divergences, some inverse head and shoulder structures. And also I told you all that Nvda and Aapl may lead the market up. If anything, that is what happened. Aapl was not as strong as what I was hoping for, but it was still green, still doing quite well. But another thing that was very strong was Tesla. Tesla also helped the market too. So Tesla and Nvda were the two big ones. Aapl also helped to some degree. And overall, the market did get a bounce as we predicted. And I've been talking about this since Friday. So now with all of this going on, when all these people were screaming, the market's going to crash, it's the end of the world. I mean, could they be right about like the more medium term? Yes, it's still a possibility. But for the short term, as we approach Wednesday, I told you all we're likely going to see the market make an attempt to bounce. That's what happened so far. Now, looking at greed, it is kind of like trying to hold up at the market momentum right now. We came closer to the 125-day moving average, but we're still not quite there yet. So the market's showing some signs of just trying to hold up for the time being, and we'll see if this lasts or not. It's going to depend on Nvidia's earnings, not to mention Jerome Powell's speech at the end of the week. Looking at other indicators, they're suggesting the same things. The overall McClellan volume summation index is kind of neutral right now between the buying and the selling, but look at the put to call ratios hitting 1.0. Whenever we hit 1.0 or exceed it, right, we tend to see the market very fearful, and that's near the time when the market tries to switch a bit, and that's what's happening so far. There are no guarantees that the market will not drop anymore, though. It could still happen after Nvidia's earnings and etc., after Jerome Powell's speech, but not a guarantee. And until that time comes, the market still has some upside approaching those events, in my opinion. The fear and greed index, it's getting very close to fearful, but now it's still quite neutral with market volatility near fear. So nothing too crazy is going on with this. For earnings, please remember, we have Zoom that just came out, I think a couple of minutes ago. We have Lowe's, Macy's, a bunch of other retails. We have Kohl's and Burlington, and just a few others as the days go on for the week. But the big dog, the huge piece of earnings that's going to be the most important one out of all of these by a long shot is going to be Nvda. Everyone's going to be watching this. All eyes are going to be on Nvda. It's going to be massive. We have to watch this carefully. It's going to affect how almost every stock out there ends up moving. This is a giant. It's not just going to affect the market solely because of it alone is big, but it's going to have a ripple effect in a way, right? So if this thing starts tanking very hard, other stocks are going to see similar trends, similar momentum. That's why it's very important to watch this, right? That's what's going to be so big about it. Now, for tomorrow, we have some important data and things going on. First off, about 2 hours before the market opens, we have a Fed speaker known as Barkin. Shouldn't be that crazy. Barkin does tend to cause like some volatility, nothing too insane though. And then during the first 30 minutes tomorrow, we have the manufacturing manufacturing numbers coming out from the Fed. So this could cause some volatility. Watch for volatility during the first 30 minutes. And then after that, okay, after all of that, those numbers are out, there's nothing else that's too big until about 1.5 hours before the market ends up closing, or about at 1:30, not 1:30, I think like 2:30 p.m. Eastern time or New York time. We have some Fed speakers coming out. We have Bowman and another Fed speaker. They're going to be very, very important. So listen to what they have to say. They could cause some more volatility at the end of the day. So we'll see what these Fed speakers say tomorrow. But besides that, there's nothing else that's too major, just some Fed speakers and just some manufacturing numbers. Expect some volatility during the first 30 minutes, and then near the very end, we have some more Fed speakers that could cause more changes. Besides that, things are looking quite interesting for the market. The Nasdaq has stopped the 4-day losing streak as it's trying to push up despite the higher yields, which is just pretty normal after so much downside. Also, we had some good news for Tesla. We actually saw analysts come out talking about how they're bullish on Tesla, raising their price targets, and they're talking about how it's once again looking quite good in their opinions. And things are looking good so far. So far, so good for the markets, good for Tesla. But now let's break down these charts. What levels should we be watching for on Nvda? Well, here's the thing about it. This thing is continuing to hold up very nicely. When we zoom out of the chart like this, you can see we formed kind of like a slanted inverse head and shoulders, which looks quite nice. We came right back into this like channel right here before getting the breakout, and it just continued to pump and pump. It's up like 8% in just one day. As this thing is pumped, let me just mention that the next level to watch for is going to be this 470 resistance zone. If it manages to hold this area and breaks above this, there's going to be 475, and then 480 is going to come after that. 480 is going to be some key resistance. It's going to be tough resistance. We'll see if Nvidia could break this. If it breaks this, it's going to fly to 490 and basically go up to about 500 in my opinion before earnings. That's very probable, but there will be some resistance at 490 and 495. But 500 is possible right before earnings. I would not rule that out. It's already very close to 480. It's not that far from it, and it's just continuing to look very strong. Now, when we open tomorrow, we might see it kind of like gap down just a tiny bit, maybe retest like 468 or something, then start pumping a little bit. I think by the time we open during the pre-market, that's going to happen. And then it might just start pushing as soon as the pre-market starts. And then after that, I just think it's going to continue going. We're going to be watching this thing test 480 very soon, and it just has more upside potential. Now, one of the things I warned everyone about in my video from Saturday was that there's a possible head and shoulders developing on SPX. Now, there's no guarantee it's going to play out. This could just keep going like, whoops, let me fix this. Sorry, guys, give me 1 second. Just like this, it could just keep going and going and going. There's a possibility of that if Nvidia ends up like pumping the markets and Powell does not cause a rug pull. But there's also a possibility of it actually playing out and this ends up just causing the market to cool off. So regardless of whether or not that happens, okay, it's clear to me that SPX has more upside. It's going to test some resistance right here and might actually get a small rejection and just try to keep going. But we're getting very close to this resistance right here. We have more upside in the 44.45 area, about 44.50, very close to that area. That's where I think it's headed. And we're going to be watching that resistance right there. That's going to pump SPY a little bit more, and this tells me that the market has more upside coming. And then this will correlate with SPY, if not dictate SPY, to try to continue going. Looking at SPY, if you look at it, look at the structure. It looks nice. So I had some microstructures I drew out for today. I'm just going to delete these. That way they don't distract the chart. But this thing managed to get above some key resistance for the day, which is a very, very good sign. And it's holding up quite nicely. So how do I see this? Well, the inverse head and shoulders held. During the drop, I told you all, right? Don't worry about how much we're dropping until we break some critical support. If we broke below, 435, that could have become concerning. It didn't do that. I told you we still had the potential to hold this inverse head and shoulder. Do not worry. And what happened? We reversed and we pumped all the way back up to 440. So with that happening, right, with the market holding up like this, we have this inverse head and shoulder structure on SPY. It's trying to push up. And I believe that it might cool off a little bit in the morning, maybe retest like 438 or so, but it's going to try to bounce and it's going to make its way up to these imbalances up here, right? When you zoom into the chart like this, we have these imbalances. They're acting as magnets. They're attracting the price back to these levels because we dropped so quickly. So 440.5 is going to be one level. There's going to be 441.5. Above that, we have like 442, then 444 above that. All of these levels should be tested soon. I'm not going to call like 444 just yet. We first have to break above 442 to get there. But I believe the most likely possibility would be this thing coming down a little bit, just like how we did today, but not that badly. Then get a bounce and start pushing for 440.5. Breaking that, then I'm going to be watching 441.5 to 442. And I think we're going to test this very, very soon. I'm still leaning more bullish in this overall structure from a technical standpoint. On the triple Q, it is being dictated by these big tech stocks, especially Apple and Nvda. It's looking bullish. Now, it might come down to about 362. It could cool off just a little bit, but it's still forming, a really nice inverse head and shoulders. It could still be forming it. A cup and handle could be forming. We're going to be watching for a small retracement to 362, then a bounce, and it's going to start pushing after that back up to about 365. If that breaks, we're going to be watching this thing push up to about 367, 368, 370, and the list goes on. It looks more bullish than bearish, in my opinion. If you just zoom out of this chart and look at it, it looks like it's going to try to break out and start pushing for these tests up here. You could also draw out a trend line just to show you where the support happens to be and just watch the support. We could connect these two little levels right here. I know it's kind of messed up down here, but that doesn't really matter. This is going to be one of the support levels, which kind of aligns very close to about 362 for tomorrow. So it makes a lot of sense. So we're going to be watching this very carefully. In my opinion, it's going to likely come down a bit and then try bouncing and see more upside. Nvda is going to help pump this thing. It looks bullish. So I think I went over everything except Tesla and Apple for now. Apple looks bullish. Why does it look bullish? Well, it broke a very, very important level we were talking about. We wanted to see this thing get above 175. It broke it. It closed above it, which is good. Look for a small retracement. It's about the 175-ish area. Completely normal. Then this inverse head and shoulders should play out after we get this retracement right here. It should bounce and start pushing for this resistance. It needs to get above 176.5. That's a key level. 176 flat technically is going to be another resistance. So let me just mark that just for reference. Right here, we're going to be watching this previous support becoming resistance. So right here, very close to 176-ish. So around here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then break that. We have 176.5, this resistance right here. Get above that, and we're going to be watching this imbalance at 177 that's coming. I think Apple's going to make its way up here before Wednesday. If that breaks, then this next imbalance is a possibility at 178. I think it's going to push up more. It looks more bullish to me. I think the market is trying to shift temporarily as we approach Nvidia's earnings. And I believe that that's going to help SPY, SPX, and the QQQ, the NASDAQ, start pushing even more. Not solely Apple, but the entire trend that is shifting. For Tesla, if anything, I'm going to actually delete this line right here. I think we can always redraw this later on. Nice accumulation structure on Tesla. It started pushing very, very nicely. We had some bullish news coming out from many analysts that were talking about some bullish targets for Tesla, increasing their price targets and things like that. Watch for Tesla to get a backtest of about $230 in my opinion. That's what typically should happen. It might come down to retest 230. The previous resistance becoming support, so right here, 230. We're going to see where it tries to bounce at. We need to see where it holds and bounces. It could be 230, could be 228, 227.5, or 225. It's going to retrace a little bit, then get another bounce, and then try to continue going. If it keeps going, if it gets above 232.5 and holds that after getting this little back test, you're going to be watching 234 to 235, the entire range right there. If it breaks that range, if it gets above the 235 area, I think Tesla's going to put 238, very close to this imbalance right here. And above that, we have the 240s coming. And we have this unfilled gap at 240, almost 242, just under 242. So I could see it reaching the 240s, but it first needs to hold above 235 to give us some momentum, to give us some more leverage, if anything. First, let's see it break that level, and I think it looks more bullish overall. It's going to come down a little bit, maybe get a back test right here, most likely, based off TA, and then it might get a bounce and start pushing for higher levels into the mid 230s, if not 240. That's what I'm predicting for Tesla, but we first have to see it break out first. So I'm leaning more bullish on it nonetheless. That's what my bottom line is going to be, my main point about it. So looking at the MACDs, on SPY, it's looking more bullish. The overall trend, and this kind of like goes the same for like Tesla and all these different tickers. We also have to break above the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame for Tesla. I believe it could do it. It's going to reject first and then making another attempt later on. Apple, once again, it's rejecting in the after hours. Going to come down a little bit, try to bounce and make our way back up into these higher levels. Nvidia is just continuing to go. QQQ looking bullish. Same thing on the MACD and etc. Still looks strong. Look for a little retracement to 362 before it keeps going. Nvidia, same thing on the MACD, continuing to go. Looking at our EMAs as well. So everything's looking quite good. AMD is going to get dragged up with Nvidia, in my opinion. We're going to be watching this thing break 109, then 111, then 113 very, very soon. The VIX is coming down quite a bit, not looking as strong. If it keeps dropping like this and gets a bearish cross on the PPO, if it keeps dropping to about the 16.5 area, that could be a bullish signal for the stock market. To add on to this, we're going to be looking at Amazon and Meta. Despite the fact that the yields went up, the market's still resilient. The dollar actually dropped a little bit. Let me just mention this about the dollar. One more thing I forgot to mention. Don't forget to pay attention to 103.08 if it does end up breaking down. The dollar is starting to show some weakness. That's a bullish signal for the markets. And finally, let me just end the video with Google, Amazon, and Meta. So for Google, it looks pretty good. We're about to get a bullish cross on the 4-hour PPO. There's a potential. I mean, it's kind of like a sloppy looking head and shoulders. Doesn't really inverse head and shoulders. It doesn't really matter to me. I could see this thing trying to push up to 129.6. If it breaks above that, 130 plus is a possibility. First, let's break 129, get to 130. If that breaks, 131.5, 132.5 are all possibilities. It looks more bullish than bearish, at least temporarily. For Amazon, we have a potential inverse head and shoulders like structure developing on it. We need to hold above 135.7. If it manages to do this, you're going to be watching for a pump to about 136-ish is a possibility. Then we have 138 coming next, not to mention our, importance is close to 140. I think at the very least, let's hold 135.7. If it does so, 138 is a real possibility. It looks more bullish. And Meta, our target on Meta was 290. Do you guys remember that? I said that yesterday, 290 should be coming. Today we hit 290.5, very, very close. So we have an accumulation that developed right here. We have this imbalance right about here, which is going to act as a magnet very close to our 200 EMA, very close to 293. It looks to me like it's going to retrace a bit, maybe retest 285 or so, maybe a little bit lower, get a bounce, and then try to make our way up to about 290 again. If it breaks, I could see this thing going to 293 almost, then potentially 296 above that. It looks more bullish than bearish, and the odds do favor more upside for this stock. We're going to be watching it very carefully. And with that said, I thank you all so much for listening. So the market is gaining strength temporarily as we approach Wednesday. I am not saying it's going to last forever or a long time, just for the time being. So we're going to be watching this in a very unbiased manner and do what's best for our own portfolios. Nothing I said is financial advice. So have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day, and don't forget that you need to stay safe during times like this, because I know that there are hurricanes going on for people in like California and maybe other states eventually, and I just want everyone to stay safe. Do what you have to do, and please take care, and I will see you guys in the next one tomorrow. Thank you. Market to the moon as the long term is very bright, and peace out.